morning, everyone, and happy last Monday of July. We are so excited to have you here joining us across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and we could not be more excited for our topic today. If you didn't know, this is our monthly office hours where we can literally answer probably any question you have, whether that's themed with our content of the day, CX, spoiler alert, or if that has anything to do with the basics or 101 of QuestionPro, whether you need to know how to add a logo to your survey or the difference between a CX program and just random surveys, this is where you can ask us. So make sure you drop that down in the comment section in LinkedIn or YouTube, and we will get there to your questions today. Hopefully we'll be able to answer them all, but if not, we'll make sure to connect you with an account manager as we go along. If you didn't know, I'm Crystal Weiss. I'm the Director of Marketing here at QuestionPro, and today I have a newbie for the first time coming to office hours, Roberta O'Keith. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. Appreciate it.
I know. This is your first office hours, but I promise you it will not be your last.
Great. No, I'm excited to be here.
And so I'm based in Austin, Texas. And so let us know where you're from in the comments. Roberta, where are you based out of?
So I'm based out of the Kansas City area on the Kansas side, for those that always ask, are you Missouri or Kansas? So I'm on the Kansas side.
Kansas is the best side.
Yes, it is.
And if you have any questions for us, please make sure to drop those into the comments. If you didn't know, here at QuestionPro, we have 4 main product lines, and we always want to make sure that you understand that you could do literally everything with the QuestionPro platform. So if you want to do some basic survey software, some advanced research, a customer experience program with CX, or an employee experience program with Workforce, we are here to help you do everything that's available. Now, Roberta is probably a little more, I would say, leans towards the CX program based on her experience and her history. But me, I try to make all programs agnostic. It is all survey software matters at QuestionPro.
Yes.
And so if you're looking for a solution, make sure you reach out to us because we can build that entire program for you. And today we're just going to have a really casual conversation with Roberta and maybe jump into, there's a couple things I do want to show, and I'll pull it up on my screen where we can talk about an NPS question and the importance of those, but also diving into the analytics and why CX programs matter. So Roberta, tell me a little bit, let's say you're a small business owner and you're just diving into surveys, right? You get your tablet where people say like, how was this experience? And it's just preloaded. What's the difference between sending one-off survey? I'm like leading the question. What's the difference between a basic survey program and a CX program?
Yeah, so I would say CX programs are the ongoing customer surveys that you're trying to get on a regular basis. So for example, maybe after every transaction for a business. So say you're a retailer and you're wanting to get feedback from a customer after every transaction that they've purchased online, a pop-up survey might come up and ask them 3 key questions around that versus a one-time survey is more of a market research driven activity. So yeah, that's what I would say is the difference.
I gotcha. And so when people are looking to get started, where do you think the tipping point is between just, okay, you just need a simple surveys to kind of check in and do those benchmarking with your customers to a full-blown program over time?
Yeah, so if I were a company that has never done survey work before or has never captured customer feedback before, I usually advise those companies to start off with, first of all, understanding the customer journey. And let's take a step back before you even collect customer feedback. You want to know and understand what the customer journey looks like from the customer's point of view.
Okay.
And if you don't know what a customer journey is, that is putting yourself in the customer's shoes and walking through the process in which they do business with you. And during that experience or during that journey, it's very easy to then identify maybe some of the sticky points or pain points a customer might have while interacting with your company. So, for example, if there's something on your website that's hard to find, that a customer is trying to figure out how to update their payment method or something like that, and they find it hard to find on your website, that's a pain point that the customer has. And so once you've identified some of those key pain points throughout that journey, that's where you want to implement maybe a couple of short surveys to understand how painful is it for them. And maybe it's not truly a pain point. It's just a pain point that internally you have thought it was. And many times companies will identify project priorities and other initiatives based on what they think is the main issue with a customer, when in reality it might be something completely different. And that's where you want to capture feedback to really validate how big of a issue it is with your company.
Okay, so that definitely makes me think of, I've worked at a lot of startups over the years, and we always were like, well, we know this is the issue. And then it always makes me think, was that really the issue, or was that our biggest issue?
Exactly. And it's funny, that's one of the steps within Lean Six Sigma methodology is when you're trying to define a problem, one of the ways to define the problem is to start capturing customer feedback. That's a step within the process. And that's going to help determine how big of a problem it is, or how important the problem might be, or not important that problem might be. And then using that to really drive where your company should focus your efforts on, especially in continuous improvement.
I got you. So continuous improvement. When you use phrases like that, like continuous improvement, is that specific to a CX program? It's like, so often I find we have various particular vernaculars that we use in our space that people coming in may not be aware of, or don't feel in the circle for. What do you mean by that kind of phrasing?
Yeah, so continuous improvement is really a terminology used in the quality Lean Six Sigma arena. Really, it's how do you continually to drive change and continually drive improvements within your processes internally with your company. And so CX and Lean Six Sigma, I feel, go hand in hand. You can have a CX, a customer experience program, that includes collecting customer feedback. You might even have a closed loop process to close the loop on some of the negative or even positive feedback you're getting. But that next step is really taking those insights and using those insights internally to identify those internal processes that might be broken or causing issues for your customer. That's the continuous improvement side of CX. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. The other thing that you mentioned that I don't know if I've ever heard of is the Lean Six Sigma methodology. So I have like some more follow-up questions on how people get into CX. It's not like you went to school for it, but so
no.
You know what I mean? I was like, was there a degree in this and I missed it?
Well, there are now, but yeah.
So what's the Lean Six Sigma methodology?
Yeah, so Lean Six Sigma is a methodology, continuous improvement, process improvement methodology that originated in Japan under the Toyota management system, TMS. And so basically, it's an approach to problem solving and identifying root causes of processes and issues within your company. It can also they use a lot of statistical analyses and data collection to identify how big or small an issue might be. So, for example, how long it might take for a web page to load on your website. So that's a measurable thing, right? How can you improve that? Well, maybe there's some things your web team needs to do in order to improve that for the customer. Six Sigma is an approach that would come in, and it's just, like I said, a problem-solving framework that I've always seemed to have used even before I even knew what it was, is truly defining the problem and really getting to a clear definition of what you think the problem might be, and ensuring that everyone across the business agrees with the actual problem. And there might be multiple problems, but this might be, for example, the website, right? Let's use that website as an example. So defining the problem. Our website's not loading in a timely manner. Well, how do you know that that's a problem? So that next step is measuring it. So let's take a measurement around how long it's taking. And let's maybe take a poll of customers to see how they feel about their website experience. So you're getting feedback to then use to then analyze that data to identify where are some of the issues coming from. Is that download an issue in all areas of the world, or is it certain geographical areas, or is it based on maybe a particular page or URL they're using? And then you go into the I phase, which is improvement. And improvement is then implementing some sort of change in the process to drive a better experience. And so once you have implemented an improvement, say we've improved the web page URL efficiency, I don't know exactly the terms would be, but say you implement a change in your web design, then the last part of it is around control. How are you measuring it going forward to ensure that it continues to be in a better state than it was before? So they call it the DMAIC process, DMAIC. And that's part of Lean Six Sigma. It's all about reducing the number of defects, and that defect might be the time loading a page on a website causing pain for a customer, reducing that amount of activity so that you're nearly at a perfect state, let's say. So I put it in real simple layman's terms, hopefully that people understand that. So, but it's a great methodology, problem-solving methodology to apply when faced with, what do you do with a bunch of data, or what do you do with this customer feedback? So,
so when you're looking for, let's say you're Jenny, who owns Jenny's Jelly Donuts.
And I love jelly donuts.
And you're really starting to work through your customer journey, right? You know, people come in, they buy their donuts based on whether it's, you know, a treat, a weekend, for their church, for their AA meetings, for their, you know, some sort of catalyst event. And so often now we're seeing that systems like Square or Clover come with surveys pre-embedded into them, right? Yep. And so you just click that button on and you're like, oh, of course I'd like to have surveys attached to my receipts, etc. When someone gets like that, those automated kind of, oh yeah, of course you're going to turn it on. What is the tipping point, you think, for when Jenny goes, ooh, I need a bigger system than this?
That's a great question. You know, again, going back to the customer journey, if she's only capturing feedback at that one transaction or interaction, she's missing out on all the other interactions that Jenny might be having with that customer that that she hasn't captured feedback for. So there's no real time frame. Let's say she's just doing that one survey, you know, at that transaction, and she's been doing it for, say, 6 months. I mean, there's no real defined time limit. It's just as a company like her, if she's a new company just starting out and just started doing those surveys, it's really a matter of how is she using that feedback. and what is she doing with it before you even start to think about capturing more or at a different touch point within the customer experience. Because once you get feedback, you need to do something with it. Otherwise, your
Right.
customers are going to be like, why the heck we all do it? Why am I filling this out? They're never going to respond to me. And that happens. Many times I have filled out quick surveys and have purposefully put comments, either not negative or positive, just to see if I get a response back from the company. Like, are they truly listening? So it's more about listening as well. So does she have a process in place in order for her to respond back to some of that feedback is important.
Right.
That whole closed loop process.
Yes. And for someone like Jenny, she probably doesn't even know that terminology.
Right.
You know, that's really where I see the opportunity for CX, and our own marketing is how I kind of think about it, is making sure that we're educating people on the entire like language, you know. This is going to be such a bad reference. You know, one of the defining like definitions of a cult is that they have their own linguistics.
We are a cult. The CX people are a cult because, you know, it's funny you say that, is because when I first started really getting into customer experience, this was back over 12, 13, 14 years ago, there weren't a lot of people out there talking the same language that I was speaking around using continuous improvement processes to take feedback, drive improvement, drive analytics, understand what our root cause is. All of that just was not around. VOC, you know, what is VOC and how do you get it?
Y'all use some, like, even in emails, you all use acronyms. And there's been a few times I was like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I really didn't know anyone like what I was doing until I got involved in a customer experience professional association that was out there that had started about the same time I was seeking people. You know, I wanted to be around same people that knew what I was talking about. And so that's where I got really involved in networking at the CXPA and getting more involved in that and really trying to drive awareness of customer experience. So,
yeah, how have you seen that awareness grow over the years? Because I had never heard about CX until I joined QuestionPro. And, you know, that as someone who's worked in marketing for 15 years, you know, we did market research, but there wasn't customer experience or customer success was always on the support side in my mind. And then there wasn't anybody in my 20s. You know, I'm in my 30s now, but let's say in the last 15 years, I think I have only ran into CX professionals now that I've joined QuestionPro. None of my friends after college went into it or know they're in it. They might be in it, but not realize it.
Right.
How have you seen the industry kind of transform over the years?
Yeah. So I would say over the last 20 years, it has evolved from really, you know, the term was used, customer experience management was one of the first terms that I had ever seen or understood. And that was with my experience at General Electric. And I was in new product development at the time. And they trained us on a program around understanding market research and understanding primary, secondary types of research, how to understand the customer life cycle, which is really the customer journey now. So the terms have evolved over time. And I also think probably in the last 7 to 10 years, customer experience has become the new hot word. You know, a lot of corporations obviously have jumped on the bandwagon of customer experience, but I do still feel that some companies still feel customer experience is just in the call center. It's just a call center customer service term. but it's not. It goes beyond that call center experience.
Right.
If you truly get deep into understanding, again, a customer journey, it
Right.
goes from your marketing, right? Very first part of marketing is how do you become aware of the company? You are from a startup. How do you market your startup? How do you develop the brand image? How do you develop the value proposition that your company has? That all affects that early stage of a customer journey. And
Interesting.
so, depending on how you market your product, how you speak about your product, where you market, who your target audience is, that's the whole beginning of the awareness phase of what a customer goes through in deciding what they need or where they need to go or who to purchase from.
Right.
And so, in the early days, I would say it kind of started in marketing and market research and has evolved now to become more operations driven, to now retention, customer retention, and
Right.
sales even. How do you renew customers? Customer success and strategic account management. That's what we're responsible for here at QuestionPros. How do we keep and retain our customers longer and
Right.
bring more value to them? It's all
Yeah.
part of that journey. So we all need to understand what that journey looks like and feels like for our customer, so we can make it easier and better to do business so that they stay with us longer, right?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal.
I love that. It definitely is something that I did not think about that much until I came here and worked at Question Pro and really started digging into it. And now it feels, as from the outside looking in, it feels so overwhelming that I would be like, I never want to do that. But as you get into you have to break it down step by step and solve those problems. Like Jenny's Jelly Donuts can solve a couple problems in her own, like small, she doesn't need a $10,000, $15,000,
No.
$20,000 program. She
Right.
needs to, kind of map out what she wants to do. And as you grow, I'm assuming your CX programs grow with you.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Absolutely.
have you seen, I can think of a couple, I just flew home on Alaska Airlines and it was like it's an airline. The customer experience is always kind of middle. But what are some companies that you've seen over the years really excel or adapt or grab onto it? Have you seen any of them do it as they've grown?
Yeah. So there's
a big question.
No, that's a really good one. So there's lots of companies out there that have grown. My first reaction to who are some of the really big customers or clients out there that do it well, whether you like Southwest or not, I think
true.
Southwest does do it well when it comes to responding to customers' needs or their feedback. I have found when I've posted pictures, I try to post a picture sometimes from the window that includes their wing and their logo, and I'll post it and tag them on it in Instagram, and I get responses from them saying, "Oh, that's it. Yeah, thanks for the tag. Great. Hope you had a great flight."
Yeah.
They're always sending out surveys post purchase of a ticket, post traveling with them. So they definitely know how to capture feedback, and they try to respond as quickly as possible. And that's grown over. Yeah. I mean, any program that has grown from just having a web pop-up survey from, hey, I've landed on your website and I'm just mulling around looking at different pages and getting pop-ups, from, hey, I've purchased. Now there's a post-purchase survey, or now I've gotten an email. Maybe I've gotten a follow-up 1 or 2 emails to fill out a survey. So clients that do that, are a little more advanced than just your typical transaction once in a while type of survey company or client.
For sure. That's awesome. And there's definitely some case studies about their like operations department where, they bring in that, what we would call reputation management, right?
Yep.
With social media.
All the social media. Yeah.
And they really have I would say a war room of all the heads of those departments, who's on site, and watching their kind of like live experience, it's literally, so I was just like, that would be an awesome job to be kind of, I'm sure it has its down days, i.e. holiday travel, but
yeah. No, I was just going to say, you mentioning the war room. So there's a great example was the Dallas airport. Dallas airport underwent some major renovations, and they have a customer or traveler war room that you can walk into while you're walking through the terminals. And you can actually go in there and see what they have created around the customer journey. And you can provide feedback real time right there as well.
That's crazy.
As to, yeah. It was a really cool case study I had seen a couple of years back. But, they took that step further of, hey, I'm going to engage the customer while they're here. And by the way, let's get their feedback on this. So let's have voting buttons, capture on a kiosk as you're walking through the airport. How was your experience?
I always push the buttons now.
Yeah. So there's been some really innovative ways that companies have really taken CX to that next level of utilizing like a war room, or utilizing, I've seen in hospitals too. Some of the hospitals have really stepped up the game in wanting to improve the patient experience by leaving either feedback opportunities at during your stay while you're in your room, providing feedback around what the room looks like, what the food is like, all of that. So those are great opportunities that I've seen grow from more than just a survey.
That's awesome. Well, I can't leave office hours without making sure we at least show people how to get started using our QuestionPro system. And I'm just going to walk us through a little bit of the website. We have all these amazing free templates. So this is a hot topic, and I just like love dropping this and leaving and be like, how do you feel about NPS questions? Because on the research side, they're always like, get rid of them. And so if you're looking to get started with a program, you can always come to questionpro.com and just start at survey templates. We literally probably have 1,500 survey templates. This says 350, but I'm telling you there's more that you can get started with, and you can sign up for free. While all product lines are, do not necessarily want you to sign up for free. I know you can. And so you can always sign up for free at QuestionPro and just kind of start exploring. And we have a lot of the basics here that kind of start, voice of the customer satisfaction. If you're Jenny from, a jelly donut company, and you're just like, I need to understand, the retail store evaluation, or you just want to have a really simple NPS starting point, and an NPS score is, on a scale of 1 to 10. How did you enjoy this office hours? You can get started using this free template. Now you can sign up for essentials. You can try it on our advanced trial, and then you could go even a bit farther diving in there. So Roberta, tell us your opinion on NPS questions.
So NPS is I believe, a good starting point for companies who have never collected customer feedback before. It's a good metric to at least start with to help get a company to start thinking about what the experience is like, whether a customer is a promoter, neutral, or detractor. It's a simple way to categorize customer feedback. And so I like it from the standpoint that you can implement that very easily into any kind of program you have, but also it's a great way to help start with the discussions with leadership around CX and what CX is and how do you measure CX. And so it's a good starting point.
Sorry, I got logged out. I was trying to get this done. And
That's okay.
That's great. So we have a little, you're going to see what marketing's up to in here. But, NPS is, as Roberta said, a great place to get started. Now you can use, when I said we have a lot of templates, it's because we also have them inside the platform as well. And so we could start with a basic customer satisfaction. You could see here, how likely are you to recommend this, etc. Or if you just go, this is one of my most funnest, that's not a word, but if you want to create a survey now, you could just build it with QXBot and say,
I love that feature. That is such a cool feature.
Build survey about my customers' interaction with Jenny's jelly donuts. You can tell what I need for breakfast is a jelly donut. And so with QXBot, we're using generative AI to help build your survey questions and your answers. And I think that is the hardest part of surveys, is writing the questions and the answers.
And that's where, if you don't have a market research background, you should leverage someone who has a little bit of that background, or a consultant, or like myself, I had done market research there, because you don't want your questions to be biased, right? You need your questions to be non-biased. And you also want to make sure you are having response options that allow for you to truly calculate a score or get meaningful data. So for example, you don't want a OSAT, which is overall satisfaction score. You don't want that to just be 3 or 4 options to choose from. You want it to be at least a 5 or a 7-point Likert scale choice.
Awesome.
And so you got to kind of have to understand some of the basic primary market research methodologies and tools.
So here's where you would go into that advanced section and and really add that. It's up here. Oh, go back. You go to edit. You go to add question. You can go to advanced, net promoter score. It's right there. You also have lots of other options. But this is really where you can simply get started with that. And of course, come in here and make sure you edit. How would you consider, what is your etc. feedback? I'm obviously not the subject matter expert when it comes to leading non-biased surveys. The market research team gets me after that all the time. Like, this is bias. And I'm like, but it's making such fun Instagram posts.
That's great, as long as you're not using that to really drive change in your organization.
Oh, no. I only use it for the fun stuff. This is marketing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But, making sure that you understand that you can really dive in here and use those QX bots to get started. And then when you're ready, reach out to Roberta and she can take you through the entire customer experience platform, from CX to surveys to reputation to all the loops. We talked about closed loop a lot today, but you also have outer loop and inner loop. And I just call them all the loops, which is probably not an industry term, but it's definitely the term we use here at QuestionPro.
Yeah, and just to help clarify too, closed loop is your immediate, how do you follow up with an individual response or an individual customer, versus more of an outer loop is your strategic. How do you take your data, analyze it, and look for opportunities for systemic or internal opportunities to improve, and start creating initiatives around those things? And so think about it as, a short-term transactional closed loop. How do you respond to that individual response versus how do you take all those responses and use that information to look at trends and issues that can drive improvement opportunities?
I like that. And as I will never let people forget, please change the color of your surveys. They do not need to be QuestionPro blue. You can make them whatever color you want. You can even make them your own custom
branding requirements.
Jenny's Jelly Donut branding requirements.
Yep.
So please make sure you go in here and do that. We love to see creative surveys out there. They also improve response rates. So you can just, and if you need accessibility themes, we are accessible for all those options. So you can always go in here and dive into a beginning, okay. So when can you see my screen still? Yes.
I can still use, yeah, I can see it.
When you're diving into a survey, Roberta, as a survey taker, are you an 8 or a 9/10? Sometimes when I'm annoyed, I'm like, I know that I'm not a promoter if I put 8.
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably respond 8s mostly, unless it's an experience that went above and beyond. Then it's a 9 or a 10 for me. So I know that's probably not what most researchers want to hear or CX leaders want to hear, but personally, yeah.
I'm always going for that mid-range, like that 7-8. And I feel so bad because I would say the average consumer would assume, this is what I assumed before I joined QuestionPro, that 8, 9, and 10 was promoters, right? 5, 6, 7 was mids. I didn't realize that 8 still didn't consider you a promoter.
Right. Well, and that's where some of the struggle or the rub is with how do you measure CX? Because if you are going above and beyond, if you're, scoring somebody a 9 or a 10, like personally, that would be going above and beyond. But in reality, in the metric, it's only saying that you're a promoter. It doesn't mean anything more than that. Same with overall satisfaction. If you don't give anybody a 5 is above and beyond in my brain. A 4 is, you did exactly what you meant to do. You met my expectations. It was fine. It was good. But if you want me as a customer to score you as a 5, then your company has to do something pretty incredible or above and beyond to get that 5. And so as a company now reflecting on the data, you wonder, why aren't you getting more 5s? Well, maybe the wording's not quite correct in the surveys nowadays. Maybe there's a new metric out there. So that's why you need to look at more than just customer satisfaction metrics or NPS metrics to truly understand and know where your company is going, either in a positive or negative way. You have to be able to also be able to integrate and look at operational data.
Right.
How often is a customer coming back to your website? How often are they purchasing your product? How much time are they spending in between purchasing your product? If that amount of time is lengthening, then maybe you're starting to lose their loyalty. So there's so many things that you need to learn. You need to measure beyond just customer sat or NPS when it comes to truly understanding your customer's experience.
I love that. That definitely takes us out of the box of, just like do the software thing and apply it, because really there's so many elements of that. And when I think about that, you're right. Like when I pick 10, it really probably means in my mind it's an 11.
Right.
They really went above. It wasn't 100%.
Exactly.
It was 110%.
Exactly.
And that's an interesting way to think about it. And, it is hard as a consumer out in the world. We talk about this vernacular and this language and how we understand it and how we use it. But if you were just Jenny Jelly Donuts, who was like, I want to start knowing what my customers say, there really is a whole, almost like a school of practice that she'd have to learn to understand how to apply the surveys. And then also, I guess, teach her customers how to fill them out.
Well, yeah, also there's so many different channels that you can go. So not necessarily an online survey. Maybe she has a kiosk at the door when they're leaving. Maybe it's a suggestion box. Maybe it's a phone call after, it doesn't have to be just a survey, on a receipt that nobody ever fills out to get a free donut, or they're just filling it out just for the free donut, right?
Mhm.
So there's just so many other channels and ways to get customers to provide feedback that, sitting down with a Jenny at a Jenny Jelly Donuts place, that's where I love, as a strategic account director, I love sitting down with our clients and understanding what are their goals and objectives, what are they trying to accomplish, what do they think they need, versus then really kind of helping strategize with them and asking them those questions around, well, what are you going to do with the feedback?
Right.
Who's going to use it? What kind of feedback do you want? Where do you think the problems are? Well, let's ask the customers exactly what you think is wrong. Just being able to sit down and really understand the bigger picture is where I get very passionate about. So
I love that. Well, your passion definitely shone through on your very first Question Pro office hours.
Yay! I made it.
You made it. We are just so grateful that we have subject matter experts like you here at Question Pro to help guide our customers and our soon-to-be customers who I know are watching. And if you want to get started with your CX program, please reach out to us. I know one of our account managers, Mark, is probably sleuthing in the comments section if you need him. And Roberta, of course, would be happy to help you. Like she said, if you're a Jenny from Jenny with Jelly Donuts, sit down with us. We'll map out your customer journey and where you really need to find that data and what you're looking for and how you can analyze it over time. So, Roberta, any last parting words, thoughts, comments, concerns?
No, one thing, customer experience can be overwhelming. And especially for, the one person in the organization who might be in market research, or maybe they're in the data analytics, and they've been tasked to take a look at all this information or data that has come in through a survey. I want you to know you're not alone, and there's help out there. And it does go beyond just a metric, an NPS score or an OSAT score. It's truly understanding and pulling all elements of your business into your program and being able to look across departments, across organization, and truly be the glue across all. That's what CX truly is being that glue that brings all the departments together. So
I love that. Don't be overwhelmed. Takeaways. Don't be overwhelmed.
Yes, don't be overwhelmed. You're not the only one. Reach out to anybody. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, wherever. So happy to help you through it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Roberta. Really appreciate you. And everyone, join us in August the 28th. I had to look at my calendar for our next office hours, subject TBD. And we are so glad y'all joined us. Have a great day. Bye, Roberta.
Bye. Thank you.